But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time.
Of course, it depends on what those various words mean. And each and every one of them will have to be litigated in court later on. You know, it's Bill Clinton. You should not take anything he says at face value. And you see, his name is all over the Jeffrey Epstein logs. The news media is cleaning it up for him. Doing double time to clean this up for Bill Clinton. You know, it turns out one of the things we learned also is that Bill Clinton's favorite college, you know this? Bill Clinton's favorite college, it turns out, is Brigham Young. He loves Brigham Young. One of the things we learned is from the transcripts and so on is that Bill Clinton likes them young. But he's a Democrat, so that's okay. Honestly, most Democrats in America want to hand their daughters over to Bill Clinton, even at this point, because there's a lot of unwellness out there. They're not very well. Well, happy Thursday, and welcome. Welcome to you. We continue to be reachable at 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625 is the telephone number. Absolutely toll-free to you because we make that accommodation. We pay. See, that's how thoughtful we are. At that 888 number. Isn't every phone call free in America now, everywhere you go? I think every national phone call is everywhere. If you're dialing out of country, that might cost money, but otherwise, we've got lots of updates because the Democrats are just off the hook. They're off the rails. They're out of their minds, out of their gourds. They're completely nuts. I got an update on that cross-dressing nuclear waste official, which is kind of ironic and funny, isn't it? At the Department of Energy, Sam Brinton. Remember him? He's the one that steals luggage from airports with women's clothing and then dresses up like the ladies when he gets home and takes pictures of himself and posts the pictures of him in stolen clothing on the internet because he's got a tiny little brain, a very, very small brain. You know, he wishes that he had a squirrel brain. He wishes that his brain was as large as a squirrel's brain, but it's not. It's kind of sad. So I've got an update for you on Sam Brinton because, he actually went to jail, interestingly enough, kind of surprising. He went to the can. He was off in the can. He likes it in the can, though, so it wasn't really such a big deal. And we've got an update on the now, I guess, soon-to-be former president of Harvard University, whose name is Claudine Gay. And she's lashing out at all you racists out there. Everybody's a racist except her and the people at Harvard who discriminate against Asians because, Asians are too smart and they do math. Is that, can you say that? Is that racist? That, Asians do too well on standardized tests and get into Harvard too easily. So they had to block Asians from getting in. And then they dedicated themselves to being anti-Semites because they're pro-Hamas. And, when you're pro-Hamas, you're also pro-Iran, aren't you? Because the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and the Ayatollahs, the Islamic Revolution in Iran, they're the ones that take all that Obama and Biden money and spread it around to the terror groups and the terrorist groups who then murder everybody that they can with the Obama-Biden money. It's funny how the New York Times and the Washington Post don't describe it that way because, if Trump had given the leading state sponsors of terror in the world billions and billions of dollars, I think they'd hang that on Trump, wouldn't they? And then the Iranians were funding these radical Islamic terror groups as they are, from the Houthis to the, honestly, to Hamas, to Hezbollah, and it's that Obama money. They're very thankful for that Obama money and the Biden money, billions more from Biden for the Ayatollahs, so they can kill the Jews and the infidels. And then something very funny happened. You know how I talk about how they usually, they make things that would normally be unfunny into things that are funny. And there was a bombing yesterday. I talked about it on the radio. We found out about it while we were live on the air. And in Iran yesterday, there was an event going on to commemorate the 4-year anniversary of the the President Trump ordering the killing of General Qasem Soleimani of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran. President Trump had him zapped, and that was a really good thing to do. U.S. military and intelligence took care of it and killed Qasem Soleimani 4 years ago yesterday. So they were celebrating his life, in Iran, because he's a mass murdering racist lunatic. Well, he's dead now, but he used to be when he was alive. He was all those things. And yesterday they were celebrating at the Martyrs Cemetery. They have a whole cemetery for martyrs. The Democrats should build one of those here in the United States because they're pretty much in line with the Ayatollahs at this point. And two bombs went off. And last time I looked, there were about 103 people killed or something like that. And it's allegedly the first bombing inside of Iran in a long, long time like this. They like their bombings outside of Iran where they killed the Jews and the infidels and all that stuff. But the big bombing there at Qasem Soleimani's Martyrs Cemetery, where well over 100 people were murdered and way over 100 people injured too. They were celebrating and chanting and gargling in the blood of innocents and doing the things that they do there. I was talking about this with my best girl this morning. Can you imagine what this part of the world was like 200 years ago? Before electricity, it was 200 years ago. It must have been like 3,000 years ago because they're not exactly keeping up with modern times, are they? But in any case, we got this bombing. And a whole bunch of Iranians killed, and they say, oh, maybe ISIS did it, which is whatever, opposing view, radical Islamic terror group, and maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't. But then they went out in the streets, the lunatics did, and they're chanting because some Islamists just blew up some Islamists. They were chanting death to Israel, death to the Jews, just death to the Jews, and death to the great Satan, and that's the United States of America. Death to America, because they blew themselves up. And then they chant death to us because they're almost as mentally ill as the left here in the United States of America, except they don't have that transgender thing so much. Although they do dress kind of funny, don't they? Yeah, they do. Yeah, so we got these twin blasts and in Iran, and they terrorist attack. They're calling it a terrorist attack. When the terrorists are calling it a terrorist attack, it's kind of funny, let's be honest. And they've adjusted the number of people killed. At least 84 people killed. Yesterday it was 103. Some of them got better. Sometimes that happens. They got better. 284 others injured, and they blew themselves up or they blew each other up or whatever. Can we just build a wall around that part of the world and you guys can kill each other till the end of time? Then we'll pull the plug on electricity and stuff. I think might work better. But amazing stuff. And they're chanting death to Israel, death to America, because some Islamists blew up some other Islamists. That's a little bit funny, let's be honest. Also here in the United States, because the Democrats are pro-terrorism. Now, let's keep in mind, the Democrats created America's oldest terrorist organization, the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, right? The only Klansman I'm certain I ever met was a Democrat senator named Robert Byrd from West Virginia, who was the exalted Cyclops of the Democrat Party. They created the KKK, the Democrat Party did. They gave us Jim Crow laws too, but they gave us the Students for a Democratic Society, and they gave us the that's the SDS, and the Weather Underground terror groups, murdered cops, robbed armored cars, tried to create a revolution. They're not done yet. They're still creating a revolution. And now they're joining forces with the Islamists because they're both anti-civilization in the end. So it's funny. My enemy's enemy is my friend is kind of their thing. And we've got a second Biden administration official has resigned because he's pro-Hamas and anti-Semitic, anti-Israel. You can't be anti-Israel and not be an anti-Semite. If you're anti-Israel, you are an anti-Semite. It's the Jewish state by definition. No, I'm anti-Germany, but I'm not anti the German people. Okay, that makes sense. Then, you're a leftist because your brain is broken, like Joe Biden's. But now an education department official, Joe Biden appointee, has resigned over Joe Biden's position being too pro-Israel and not pro-Hamas enough, and the Democrat Party has moved right over to the pro-Hamas column because they love death more than we love life. They're the left. Pretty amazing stuff. So I want to get into that today, and it is a second administration official resigns in protest of Biden's support for Israel in Gaza because, the children. Oh, what about the children? Then they send a check to Planned Parenthood so that they can continue to exterminate 40% of the black population in the United States and, have somebody else pay for it because they're also socialists. Keep that in mind. And the socialists, of course, have murdered more people than any group of terrorists in the history of the world. Pay no attention to that. So I want to update you on that. Also, the luggage, the cross-dressing luggage thief, who was I assume maybe he's still got his job in the Biden administration, the Energy Department. Sam Brinton, remember this guy? He shaved his head and grew a mustache and stole women's luggage at airports in Las Vegas and Minneapolis and Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C. And then he dressed up in ladies' clothes and took pictures of himself and posted the pictures on the internet because he has a tiny little brain and it's squirming like a toad. Completely crazy. Sam Brinton, the embattled non-binary former Biden administration official, ended 2023 free despite facing multiple charges related to alleged airport baggage thefts in multiple states. Brinton made headlines in mid-2022 after being appointed to lead the nuclear waste policy at the Department of Energy under Joe Biden, the Office of Nuclear Energy, as a non-binary gender fluid person. And the news media loved it. They applauded. Oh, look, Joe Biden has put this guy in charge of nuclear waste, and he's a dirty bomb himself. That's actually his code name is Dirty Bomb. They call him Dirty Bomb. His friends call him Dirty Bomb. So in December of 2022, the Department of Energy announced that Brinton had departed the agency, but declined to comment on the reason. I assume they continued to pay him. And now he's all good to go because because Democrats. And I'll update you on that too. Stealing luggage, thousands of dollars in women's clothing. And the guy's a complete freak show. He's a mental case and mainstream Democrat Party guy. No big deal. So I've got an update for you on that. Stealing stuff and he's free. He's free. We'll get to that. Because there's a lot of mental issues. There really are. Barack Obama talked a lot about when he was talking about Obamacare, which ruined the American healthcare system and made it all cost more because everything the left does produces the results that are the opposite of what they say they're going to produce. It's a pretty normal thing. But the mental health component was a big talking point for Obama and the Democrats then. Little did we know, it's because they knew, we didn't know, that everybody they hang out with is mentally ill. So they look around the room and they're like, man, we really need a lot of mental health care in the United States because everybody they know is a mental case. They think it's normal to be abnormal. That's why at the Chris Plant store on Al Gore's Amazing Internet, we have Remember Normal t-shirts, Remember Normal coffee mugs, because we need to hang on to normal. It's slipping away. And if we don't hang on to it in the United States of America, then all of civilization is on the line. And that's what the left is here to do. And the Islamists as well, of course. Speaking of anti-Semites and plagiarists, I know we weren't talking about plagiarists until now. Former Harvard President Claudine Gay says this is about more than my mistakes. And she's writing in the New York Times, naturally. They're fellow travelers, the New York Times and Claudine Gay at Harvard. And she says this is about more than me. And she's right about that. It's about left-wing, radical, racist social constructs like DEI and critical race theory. And their chickens might be coming home to roost. And they're in a panic, not just about their gender dysphoria this time, but they're in a panic because the whole DEI project is now in the spotlight and might be on the line. And it's one of their key tools in corrupting everything in Western civilization. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, critical race theory. It's all about their institutional racism. They are the biggest racists in the world, and they use the Russian playbook. They accuse everybody else of being what they are, doing what they're doing. So I've got an update on her, and fun stuff going on with a billionaire, a guy who gives lots of money to Harvard. He wants everybody fired now, including the board and the head of the board, because they dithered for weeks on end. So I've got an update for you on that. That's great. Also more pro-Hamas stuff. Anonymous Biden staffers on their campaign penned an anonymous letter expressing their support for radical Islam and their hatred of the Jews. Because, you know how they are. Yeah, and Bill Clinton likes them young. That's why his favorite college is Brigham Young. And we are at 888-630-9625. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit chrisplantcruise.com. Oh, hey, we're back. All right, I tell you what, let's take a phone call. We got all kinds of crazy. The United Nations appoints a man to be their woman ambassador. They're mental, a lot of mental people. They're all lefties. Let's go to the telephones and to Patty, calling from Montclair, Virginia. Patty, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, missed you when you were gone. Just wanted to say my son lives in D.C. in the West End, and he got paperwork in the mail to apparently quite a few questions to fill out and return for jury duty. And he filled them out, and he's just been notified that he has to show up for jury duty on Valentine's Day. And he said it was for the Trump trial. I'm not sure if that's correct or he's just thinking that. But my point is, I don't know where I went wrong, Chris. This guy despises Trump in the most vitriolic way. And if he ever gets on that jury, I have to wonder what the heck is going on. I guess I already know, but wanted to share that with you, sweetie.
All right, so you believe he's a Trump hater. He's got a serious case of Trump derangement syndrome.
Yes, sir.
He lives in D.C., West End, kind of general vicinity of the State Department. And
a condo on West End, L Street. Yeah.
And he filled out the forms. And now, has he already gone in to check in at the courthouse?
No. He's supposed to go in on Valentine's Day.
I see. Okay. So that's when he shows up. And if he really despises Trump, then he's a shoo-in for the jury there because it's D.C. and the whole city really is a lynch mob. We know that. Bum, bum. So Joe Biden is planning on giving a big speech. Well, he was planning on giving a big speech on Saturday because, Saturday's it's a big day. It's January 6th, and that was the day that Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed by a vicious, racist police officer in the Capitol for the alleged crime of trespassing. And the Democrats celebrated, and they applauded, and they spit on her grave because, the left, they love death more than we love life. And Joe Biden, he was going to give a speech in Pennsylvania, and it was going to be his MAGA extremist speech. It's been labeled the hate speech. Remember when Joe Biden that was in Philadelphia, I think, when he gave the speech from hell, the Satan speech, with the red lights behind him on the building, and he had Marines back there abusing the Marines as stage props for his speech, and the speech from hell with the red lights. Well, he was planning on giving a speech on Saturday in Pennsylvania, and now they've moved it to Friday because and Valley Forge. They're going to give it Valley Forge and talk about George Washington. Have you noticed they're out there talking about George Washington now? like somehow they're laying claim to George Washington, who they've been demonizing and vilifying for decades as a white colonial slave owner, because he's the ultimate anti-colonial. But never mind that. And he set the table to end slavery. And never mind that. The facts don't matter and history doesn't matter. They're anti-American and they teach anti-American history. But Joe Biden was going to give this speech in Pennsylvania on Saturday, because it's January 6th. And now he's had to move it to January 5th because it looks like there might be a little snow, a little dusting of snow. Wasn't there a snow at Valley Forge when George Washington? Well, never mind that. The facts really don't matter. But the speech is an attack speech on half the country. The existential threat of MAGA extremism is the message of Joe Biden. Remember when he said he was going to be the great uniter and he was going to bring the country together? Just another lie. It was a big lie, but he's a liar. He lies all the time. And his brain, she's a broke. She's a no good, that brain of his. And besides, the Obama machine is behind the curtain controlling, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It's Barack Obama. Biden campaign releases new ad highlighting the existential threat of MAGA extremism. That's the new ad that the Biden people are putting out for television. And he's planning on giving a speech that will talk about how Donald Trump and Trump voters are a threat to democracy and a threat to our very republic, and an existential threat, of course. What other kind of threat is there? And it's MAGA extremism, which is and he was giving the speech on January 6th because Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed while unarmed after serving 12 years in the Air Force by a racist police officer who the Democrats support completely. It turns out occasionally they support the police shooting unarmed women without warning and killing them because they're the left. They're not liberals. But in any case, the speech has been his planned speech, which will now be on Friday because they're not exactly the boys, storming Pointe du Hoc at the Normandy invasion, not brave people. But the speech has been labeled the hate speech because they had the speech from hell, right, in Philadelphia. I think I labeled it the speech from hell because of the red lights, and it looked like hell, and he sounds like hell, and he looks like hell, and all that, and he was attacking everybody then. And now his new speech is called the hate speech. You know how they say they don't like hate speech, but they do. They are hate speech. They're living, breathing vessels of hate speech. And Joe Biden's anti-MAGA extremism ad is kind of a preview of the hate speech that is now coming up tomorrow instead of Saturday because of an alleged dusting of snow. Was it going to be an indoor speech? Or what is they're afraid Joe might slip and fall and break a hip, something like that. Joe Biden's hate ad leading into the hate speech.
I've made the preservation of American democracy the central issue of my presidency.
What?
I believe in free and fair elections.
What?
And the right to vote fairly and have your vote counted.
By mail.
There's something dangerous happening in America.
For 3 months.
There's an extremist movement.
Yeah, rioting.
Does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy.
Looting. Yeah,
all
the
of us
basic beliefs
are
do
being
not
asked
share.
Right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy? History's watching.
Jail your political
The world
enemies.
is watching. And most important, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible.
How many grandchildren?
Vice President and I have supported voting rights since day one of this administration.
Supported voting
and
rights.
I ask every
What?
American to join me in this cause.
Voting rights?
America is still a place of possibilities where the power resides with we, the people.
A moron
That's
can be
our
president.
soul. We are the United States of America.
Soul
There's
train.
nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
He approved this message. There is, it's an existential threat, and it's the hate speech. That's the hate commercial, leading into the hate speech that will allegedly now be tomorrow if Joe Biden survives that long in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. And now I've seen these radical lefties out there laying claim to the mantle of George Washington. Have you seen this? They are the most shameless gang of miscreants. President Joe Biden's re-election campaign released a new ad on Wednesday highlighting the existential threat that MAGA extremism poses to the United States of America and a new minute-long advertisement first reported by NBC News. That means the first report, it's an ad they're putting on TV. So they're paying NBC to put it on, but they're putting it on for free at NBC News because they are a vessel of the Democrat Party. So that's funny. First reported by NBC News. It's a political ad. Highlighted a speech on democracy, and they use these clips from one of his hate speeches from the fall, months ago now. It's titled "Cause." The cause of Joe Biden's brain seizure. Pretty amazing. They got a name for the thing, and it includes images from 2017. The Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Remember that? Because these guys have burned city after city. The left has, because of St. George Floyd of, St. George of fentanyl. He's a hero of the Democrat Party. How many people died because of George Floyd? How many people? I think the number is 36 that the Democrats murdered during their many riots, where literally more than $2 billion, according to the insurance industry, in property damage was perpetrated, where more than 2,000 police officers were injured by the left rioting and looting and plundering and all the madness. Speaking of looting, and then, of course, clips from January 6th, because that's the only riot in the last 10 years, right? It's the only Republican riot in the history of the country. And it came after hundreds and hundreds, literally, of Democrat Party riots where dozens were murdered, thousands were injured, police only, not counting all the other injuries, and billions in property damage because St. George Floyd of fentanyl, who died of a cardiac event, and one coroner said he had so much fentanyl in his system that if they had found him at home dead on his couch, they would have just called it an overdose death. But never mind that. And the Biden administration and the Democrats, they're the party again of the Klan and the SDS and the Weather Underground and the Symbionese Liberation Army and kidnapping and rioting and looting and terrorism. That's the Democrat Party. That's their history, the party of the Confederate States of America. But never mind that. So this is the hate ad, which was timed to lead into the hate speech that Joe Biden will now be delivering tomorrow instead of Saturday because they're afraid that he might slip on the snow and break a hip. That's your Democrat Party and your media, but I repeat myself. So you heard the story here first, and it's called the hate speech. I know I'm calling it the hate speech, but everybody should call it the hate speech because that's what it's about. MAGA extremism. I remember on the day I came in after the January 6th thing, I was like, boy, this was a big mistake. It's going to be a big problem because the Democrats, I said the day after, the Democrats are going to turn it into Pearl Harbor and 9/11 rolled into one. And I said that the day after I got on the radio. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. It was an easy call, to be sure. Now, Joe Biden's talking about the existential threat. I want to go to another story altogether, and that is a story out of Washington, D.C., where Democrats have posted flyers in a neighborhood in Washington, D.C., recommending that everyone loot everything, especially grocery stores, and tear it down because everybody's racist, right? Everybody's racist, and they're against that, except they're the biggest racists in the world, and they always have been. But never mind that. Also, you see the Democrat attacking the judge in Nevada. I've got that for you today because a Democrat criminal, career criminal, career felon, never mind that. But in a neighborhood, Columbia Heights in Washington, D.C., there are flyers that have been put up advocating looting because Democrats love crime. Because I think, are they all criminals now, Democrats, or just the vast majority of criminals are Democrats, not necessarily the vast majority of Democrats are criminals? It's difficult to say. We'll have to start keeping numbers on that. But that's amazing stuff. Now let me go to this because there's only one. The Washington Post didn't cover it because they don't cover the news. They're not a news organization. They're a Democrat Party front group masquerading as a news organization. But in Columbia Heights, a neighborhood in Washington, D.C., and And the flyers are advising everyone to loot because, and the grocery stores in particular. A local news story has the run, and it's just Channel 5, Fox Channel 5. Listen to this.
Oh my goodness. And where was this exactly?
Right here, posted on the window of this vacant storefront on Irving Street. Shoplifters unite, it says. Take everything that's not nailed down. Bust windows. We are not showing the rest of the flyer because we don't know who posted it, and it makes serious allegations against Safeway that we cannot verify. But everyone we spoke with tonight had the same reaction.
And it uses the N-word, among other things, because Democrats, they're immune from all this, just like Claudine Gay, the anti-Semite plagiarist at Harvard University, who will continue to make about $900,000 a year teaching. I think she should be the head of the Department of Anti-Semitism. Now at Harvard, you can get a degree in anti-Semitism. You can, if you want to be a first-rate, world-class anti-Semite, go to Harvard. If you're Jewish, don't go to Harvard. Flyer posted on vacant D.C. store calls for shoplifters to unite. Like Karl Marx workers of the world unite. You have nothing to loot but your local stores. So rampant shoplifting in the District of Columbia has reached a whole new level. Flyer posted outside a vacant storefront in Columbia Heights is calling on shoplifters to ransack their local Safeway grocery store. The flyer placed on a storefront window on Irving Street. I used to live a couple blocks off of Irving. Read in part, "Shoplifters unite," the language of Karl Marx, you see. And take every that's not nailed down. Bust windows, because they're also illiterate. The important thing to know about these people is that the left, that they're illiterate on top of everything else. It's pretty extraordinary stuff, I've got to say. And it accuses the Safeway store of, they say they've got a manager who used the N-word directed at a black man in a wheelchair and told the handicapped N-word deleted to get out of his store. So that happened. Yeah, sure, that happened. And they're recommending, they're fanning the flames. They're trying to get mob violence and criminal activity organized. And all police can say is that they're Democrats. Now, the local stores in this neighborhood have been looted to the point, the CVS store, the shelves are empty. You can't get anything that you want, that you might want at a drugstore, because, the Democrats, they stole everything. And the mob violence, they stole the whole damn thing.
Five Below, next door to where that flyer is posted, now closes early at 5. And on January 14th, they're shutting down for good. At Target, this sign warns minors they need to be accompanied by an adult. And across the street at CVS, this security guard is now patrolling totally empty shelves.
Now, the video shows aisle after aisle, and the shelves are completely bare, like they were just opening the store and they hadn't gotten any deliveries of anything yet. And it's because Democrats, Biden voters, stole every single thing. And then they steal it all. Then they go out on the sidewalk and set up tables and they sell it to people passing by. Now, the flyer begins with Black Lives Matter. And then they shoot black people, I think it's, Safeway is racist against black people. Got to be specific against black people. If you said they're racist against Asian people, then the Democrats would have to say, hey, well, so am I. Racist against Jewish people, then they'd say, well, I'm pro-Hamas and I'm pro-Ayatollah. Safeway, whose parent company, and they misspell whose, Safeway, whose parent company is Albertsons, they write, Albertsons Companies, is fully against Gaza, and they underline against Gaza. So these people are anti-Semites, right? That's their thing. A white redneck manager, the flyer says, told a disabled black person he was not allowed to bring his wheelchair in the store, because that happened, right? That clearly didn't. Shoplifters unite, it says. Take everything that's not nailed down. Bust windows. This is the Democrat Party. Shoplift all you want, boycott Safeway. Beep, wreck all the stores. That's wreck all the stores, you see. And they claim again and again the white manager. And they got a picture of apparently a black man in a wheelchair in a library somewhere looking at his phone with a stack of books in his hand. And they say a white redneck because they're racists. They're anti-Semites. I mean, honestly, this flyer has the white redneck manager told to use the N-word, guy in a wheelchair. That happened. Sure it did. And then the N-word again and again. And the white manager and Safeway's racist against black people. And they're, the company is fully against Gaza. So they're anti-Semites. They're anti-white. They're violent criminals. They want rampant looting and criminal violence because, you know, they're the Democrat Party. But MAGA extremists, according to Joe Biden in his hate speech, they're a threat to democracy, you see, because, Michael, after the show, let's go loot. Let's go loot someplace in D.C. Maybe Brooks Brothers. Something like that. That's your Democrat Party. Now, where the Democrats are calling for more looting, the CVS drugstore has been looted to the point, and the reporter made mention, that all the shelves are bare, and the security guard is walking around bored because they're closing their doors in about 2 weeks permanently because of all the theft. So there's going to be a CVS desert, a drug desert. Well, they'll have, crack and everything, of course, and hookers, but the crack desert. And they're stealing everything. Now, there was a guy out on the street who had apparently received a lot of stolen stuff from the store, and he's selling it on a table on the sidewalk.
And if you're looking for laundry detergent, you won't find it at CVS, but you will find it at this street vendor right outside, out in the open. How much for the game?
You can give me
$10? It come from? Where does it come from?
It's a farmer's market up in the road. They sell a lot of packaging products.
The farmer's market?
Yeah, it comes from the farmer's market up the road. There is no farmer's market up the road. He's a criminal.